are back in the 1916 Company Jewelry channel, and I'm very excited because today I get to sit down with the one and only Anthony Hopenhajm.
I'm the one that's excited.
And he is not just a New Yorker. He happens to be the owner and the creative director behind the brand Seaman Schepps. It's a brand that sits fully American, founded in 1904. We're fast forward 2025, so you're going to tell us everything that happened to this America's court jeweler. That's how he was described.
Do I have 8 hours? That's what I want to know. If I have to tell you everything.
So challenge, you get 15 minutes. So where do you start? First, who are you?
Well, I'm a New Yorker, born and bred. We produce in New York. We're one of the last really manufacturing jewelers in New York, and that's really been the heritage of Seaman Schepps. The designs really derive from the city. It's a fast-paced city. It's colorful. None of the things we do are shy or timid or small. Everything is colorful, I would say, and we are not afraid to use materials that many other jewelers would shy away from. Probably the most famous piece we do is a pair of earrings made of seashells. And just as Seaman Schepps did so many years ago, we take a pair of simple seashells, we polish them, they're not painted at all, and we mount them in 18-karat gold. The idea of taking something simply from nature, not because of its value, but because of its form, and working with it and making it something wearable today, I think is really what's really the DNA and the special part of our brand.
But if we pause for a second, when you look at the history of Seaman Schepps, the brand was founded in 1904. You acquired it about 30 years ago,
Correct,
which was
yes.
Shortly before 2000. What happened during this time? What made you interested in this brand? And what made you want to purchase Seaman Schepps, considering that it was mostly a brand for insiders, for collectors, people who knew what true jewelry
I would say it still is a brand for, you have to know about Seaman Schepps.
Sure.
We're not out to sell to everybody. We're not everybody's jeweler, but for someone that appreciates original design and limited edition pieces, I think we're the jeweler for them. What intrigued us about the brand, and I think what intrigues me about design in general, is when I look at something done 100 years ago or 50 years ago, or even 1,000 years ago, and still is intriguing and interesting, that's really special for me. And what was special and what continues to be special about this brand is many of the pieces, the core of what we sell, were first designed and were first fabricated in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s. And that we can sell those pieces today really are a tribute to Seaman Schepps and the amazing ability he had to design pieces that are timeless.
But does it mean that you reinvent and modernize the classics of the brand? Or fast forward the vision for 2025 and after, how do you play around with what's going on in the jewelry world for what the clients of today want versus what they wanted years ago?
Well, one of the things to make something relevant is with times change. In the 40s and the 50s, that were really Schepps' heyday, they were the war years. Women couldn't get these wonderful silks from Italy or from France. They tended to wear suits, very severe suits, made out of men's suiting fabric. When you think about Katharine Hepburn, you think about Betty Davis, in these very severe suits, so they needed huge brooches. Times have changed. You can wear colorful things. Clothes are different. People are wearing lighter clothes. So what we've done is perhaps we've scaled things down a little bit, but we've still respected the original designs. The way we combine colors, the way we combine natural materials. And I think the other thing that Schepps understood before anybody else did was that he wasn't afraid to use a material in jewelry that wasn't used before. One of the most famous pieces we do, aside from the shell earrings, is a link bracelet. It's a link bracelet with alternating wood links in gold. And what makes it really interesting today and what makes it really relevant is it's easy to wear. We don't make jewelry that sits in a safe and only comes out once when your daughter gets married.
So now you've got enough history and background, having purchased the company 30 years ago, but having a brand that was created in 1904. What evolution have you seen in your clients and the requests and the trends from 2025 to early 2000 to 1904 when the brand was created?
Well, I think you also have to look at the evolution of who wore jewelry and who bought jewelry years ago. Originally, jewelry went to a very small top of a class of people financially. It wasn't something that a middle class or upper middle class person could buy. Today, a lot of new people, there's a lot more affluence, and a lot more people have entered the marketplace. And that's changed also in that jewelry was bought very often for a particular occasion. Jewelry was, you know, what is really the beginnings of jewelry? Jewelry gives you credibility and title. What is the ultimate jewel? A crown for a king. And then pass that down, the next piece of jewelry would be a title or an honor you were given by a king, a duke, a duchess, or something like that. And then it came down to jewelry was for an occasion, a wedding, a marriage, the birth of a child. And today what's happened is jewelry, because women really control their own finances, or women in the workplace are much more equal to men than they ever were before. Women buy their own jewelry. And what they want to buy for themselves is not just jewelry for a fancy occasion. They want to wear jewelry when they go to work. They want jewelry when they go out with their friends. So it's a more casual approach to buying jewelry. And that's really has been our strength, that we make jewelry that can really be worn during the day, not just for that one special occasion when your children get married.
What excites you the most when you create jewelry?
To sit down with someone like you.
That's a good answer.
I think it's not far from the truth. I find it fascinating when I go out someplace and I see somebody wearing our jewelry. And I look how they wear it, and that's incredible knowledge for me. When we see, as a funny story I tell about, I'm in Washington waiting for a taxi to go to see a client, and the 2 or 3 women in front of this, so there's a woman, 2 or 3 people in front wearing our jewelry. I'm not very shy, so I have to go up and I said, by the way, I have to tell you, you look fabulous in the jewelry. She told me she thought I was going to rob her because people don't go up and compliment the jewelry. But after she realized who I was, I introduced myself. I'd never met her because I'm usually not in the stores. I'm in the workshop. She says, I'm so happy you came over and told me this. I'm actually having lunch at the White House, and for 3 months I couldn't decide what to wear when I was meeting the president and his wife. So that's part of it. But it's interesting to see when you go out how people wear jewelry today, and it's much more relaxed than it was years ago.
It's true that when you look at the palette, when you look at what Seaman Schepps represents, for those of you who've never heard about the brand, who can't really picture what the collections look like, you've got those links with the ebony wood, with the use of raw and colorful material. There's the use of shell. You've got the cufflinks. But at the end of the day, you don't really use diamonds. And when people think about jewelry, they often think about gold, diamonds, and platinum, especially in the years that Seaman Schepps created.
It's funny, we're not known for using diamonds, but sometimes people really love their pieces, and we will do, for instance, a bracelet that's all ebony and diamonds. But the really calling card of the brand are things that are wearable on a daily basis that really complement what you're wearing and really flatter the wearer. And that was something that I think traditionally jewelry was never bought by a woman by herself. You think about historically, what would happen is a woman would be offered a piece of jewelry by someone in her family, by her husband, by someone she was going to marry. But a woman also never even, if a woman got married years ago, her dowry became her husband's money, not hers. But during the war years, there was a big turning point. Women entered the workplace. Women could determine how they would spend their own money. And very honestly, it pains me to say this, but women usually have better taste than men, and they certainly know better what looks good on them than a man offering them something. Schepps's business was really built on powerful women, women that had a strong sense of style, that purchased jewelry for themselves. And if their husbands or their boyfriends were smart, they bought their women, their ladies, jewelry in the same store that they liked.
And they would wear cufflinks at the same time.
Absolutely. We're known for our cufflinks and the materials we work with.
And one thing also you didn't mention, which I thought was fascinating and just beautiful when I went to visit your store up in Madison, is the objects. The objects is a big part of the identity of Seaman Schepps, working with the same chalcedony, jade, lapis, turquoise you would use in your pieces of jewelry. You just create these beautiful objects that just become collectibles at the same time.
Yeah, we have a knowledge of working with stone, and that's followed through the objects we've made. Schepps did make objects in his day also. Usually they were cigarette holders, which are, cigarette boxes and things which were you'd have on a coffee table. And what we've done is we take it to another degree. We've offered little boxes, things for the table, pen stands, things for accessories for pencils and for a desk, but it's about the materials. And I think our attraction to beautiful colored stones is something we really inherit from Seaman Schepps.
And speaking of inheritance, when you speak about Seaman Schepps to people who know about jewelry, who are knowledgeable about what are the pieces that are collectible, you were mentioning earlier in one of our conversations, Belperon, and all this age where there's big names you want to get. What would be the pieces that are right now that you could find at auctions today that you can also find in modern version where people don't think you can buy new modern Schepps and only old?
Well, I think one of the things that people find interesting is that this workmanship and this level of craftsmanship still exists today and in New York. The jewelry we sell is made in our New York workshop, and it really represents a New York sensitivity for how someone dresses and also a sense of design. And our affinity, our mixing jades. Schepps went on one of his first trips to Asia, he found jade. American companies don't work with jade. We found it a fascinating, it's a flattering material. It's these soft green colors. We mix them with rubies. We mix, do these, it's almost like a collage of color that you see, but we're not afraid of mixing materials or using materials that otherwise haven't been used before. And part of it really comes from Schepps' background. He was not classically trained. One of the problems of being classically trained in a particular discipline is there's certain rules you have to follow. He had no rules to follow. He just did what looked good to him. Sometimes it wasn't wonderful looking, but thankfully for us today, a lot of the things really were.
And do you think today you can still manage to perpetrate what his vision was as the American jewelers, the American Couture Jeweler, to what you're doing today? And it's going to come to my next question, that you're obviously based in America where you've got 3 stores, but you're also quite often in Europe, which is an interesting balance considering.
Well, our clients don't stay put. Our clients, if you look at a profile of our clients,
basically.
A little bit like me. But our clients, I would say, travel, they're sporty, they're in good shape, and they enjoy wearing things. They don't enjoy buying things to leave in a box. They enjoy something they can travel with. They can enjoy something that's flattering. And that's really the profile of who our clients are. The challenge is today for a jeweler continuing a tradition was years ago, it was very common to have a young person that wanted to be a jeweler do a stage, they would train, they would understand how to make jewelry. And when I first started, you put an ad in the newspaper, you'd have 50 people calling in that wanted to work for you. Today's modern generation, everything is instantaneous, and the idea of working for a while to learn a trade is something that's being lost. Everything today has to be instant. We don't make instant jewelry. You don't pop something in a glass and have a piece of jewelry. It takes a while. When we have lapidaries, we'll bring people on board. It will really be about a year or 2 before they're really capable of doing something on their own that's the quality of what we want. And that's probably our biggest challenge, is not really selling the jewelry. Our biggest challenge is 5 people that work in our shop that are capable of doing the quality and the type of work that we want to do.
And you know that very well because you spend most of your time in the workshop.
Yeah, I'm not in the store, so once in a while I'll go in. But I really am in the workshop right next to the jewelers every day, either developing styles or telling them, move this over a little, make it a little smaller, make it a little larger, or fortunately giving them a pat on the back and say, well done.
What would be the 3 pieces, your 3 favorite pieces from all of Seaman Schepps' designs?
It's a little bit difficult. It's like, which of my children do I like the most or like the least? It depends what day. I think one of the pieces that I enjoy is a Bodrum bracelet. It's a plain link bracelet made of oval jadeite links. And what I find very special about it is the inside is lined in rubies or sapphires. It's like, I think, a really nice piece of clothing. It's not so much the outside, but you look on the inside how it's finished. It's the same thing. The reason you buy a great car is because the door closes good. If the outside looks good, but it sounds sort of creaky when you're closing it, it doesn't matter.
It's like what Steve Jobs was saying in the computer. It has to be beautiful inside out. When you open it, it has to be as good.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so those, you know, that's one of the pieces, this Boldest bracelet we do. But I have to say, after all these years, still the plain link bracelet, I can say that I've been married for 50 years, believe it or not, to the same woman. And we first bought...
Yeah, but she's Italian, so she knows how to handle Americans.
So she thinks, but I think she probably does. But I gave her a pair of wooden gold link bracelets, and she has quite a bit of jewelry. There's nothing she wears more than those first two bracelets. When she dropped the kids off at school, she was meeting us out for lunch, or she were going out to a simple dinner. They're always appropriate. They're never offensive. They're never considered inappropriate to wear.
So what you're actually saying is interesting. It means that every single piece, or most of them, are genuinely timeless. And it's the kind of goal that a lot of jewelers now want to achieve, is create a timeless piece of jewelry that's both feminine, wearable, but also light and comfortable at the same time, which is a very hard challenge looking at everyday jewelry.
It's a high bar. It's a high bar. And we're not successful. Sometimes we have pieces that don't work. Everybody does. But fortunately, more pieces work than don't work. And every once in a while, we're fortunate to have a piece that really is timeless.
And what do you think, with the evolution and what you've seen from the heritage and everything you've inherited in acquiring Seaman Schepps, in terms of gemstones, is there new gemstones that you brought? It's not like new gemstones were discovered. It's just in the way, in the demand, in the supply chain. Was there any, I would say, new stones or colors or style that are more required, that people are more interested in nowadays than it was 30 or 100 years ago?
I don't think it's so much the stone, but I think it's what we do with it. It's not like I think a painter says, what's your favorite color? It's the composition of the colors together. It's how one mixes it and how one balances it. But one of the things is, you know, I travel a lot and I'm always looking for unusual materials. On a particular trip, I'll find a group of brown or caramel colored jade that I'm fascinated with, and we'll mix it with yellow sapphire rosewood. It's not been done before. There's a jade that I'll find. There's a particular shade of a gray pearl that I find fascinating. We'll mix it with a pale colored sapphire. That's really just as Schepps did when he was traveling, would find a material and usually treat it in a very unorthodox way, or one that's not expected. There should be, I think, in addition to the quality and the wearability, there should be some sort of an element of surprise and something unexpected in a piece of jewelry.
Well, that was very interesting, invigorating, and for you who just stepped over the plane, you have more energy than I do.
Excuse me the way I'm I literally just got off the plane. She promised me there was going to be no video. She said, we're just going to do an interview, but I'm life is full of surprises, but this has been a very pleasant one. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anthony, and we look very much forward to the next pieces we're going to be seeing inside the 1916 Company stores. Visit your store in New York for those of you who can come to Madison, all the way up east.
Yeah.
It's quite a beautiful store, and if you're kind enough, maybe they'll show you what's the floor down.
We keep our archives and all the old drawings, of which we have about 6,000 in the store. And sometimes we have them on exhibit in the store. We usually have a collection of vintage pieces that are not for sale in the store also. And we have shops also in Palm Beach and Nantucket. But
perfect.
Wonderful.
Maybe someday in Geneva.
Maybe, who knows?